Hello, it's another blast furnace of weather here in the UK in Oxford. It's 33 degrees, they think, today. In history this week, UEFA Women's European Championship, England have heroically crawled back to second position. Hopes for millions of beer-swilling footy fans remains alive. Welcome to the Internet Seriously, a humorous look at tech, news and politics. I'm Lucian Taylor in Oxford.
I'm Emily Taylor in Oxford.
And I'm Alice Taylor, also in Oxford.
So, coming up today, Stop Killing Games. We discuss a new movement called the SKG, which champions consumer rights and game preservation. Next, Love Mud Dog Lady, a popular Eastbourne dog groomer, has become the target of a sophisticated phishing scam. We talk more about this social engineering and a bit about dogs in general. 4 arrested in a major cyber attack investigation targeting Marks and Spencer's Co-op and Harrods. Is the circle closing in on those who nearly destroyed a British icon? And finally, if we've got time, Grok, the AI chatbot developed by XAI, has recently been at the centre of a significant controversy regarding its generation of extremist content. So this was an interesting one. It's one that we've been discussing in our family. We're all in the same family. Stop Killing Games is a really interesting one from games development point of view and legal view. Before we dig into that, if you're watching or listening to this, please follow us. Click on the links below. They're appearing over Alice now. And also follow us on podcast. Apple Podcasts and things. Please click follow or subscribe, particularly, and comment, particularly if you like us, but we want to hear from everybody. Alice, have you heard of the SKG? It is a movement spearheaded by YouTuber Ross Scott, which champions consumer rights and this new thing called game preservation. It's basically it's sparked when things like companies like Ubisoft delist, particularly in this case The Crew, a game, and that digital purchases should grant perpetual access. They're basically saying we've owned something, we purchased something, and we should perpetually own it.
I haven't heard of the Stop Killing Games movement, but I've heard culturally about this kind of backlash to generally subscription models, not just for gaming. But I think I did hear that I think it was Ubisoft had said to their customers that when a new version of a game comes out, you must destroy the old version, which it's like if we think back to sort of 2005 when you'd own your DVDs, that would be like, we've made a new version of Star Wars, so you need to get your DVD of Star Wars and destroy it and buy the new version.
Emily, I want to come back to actually what that means, because I find that hysterical. But what Alice is referring to is that Ubisoft has drawn a significant backlash for an updated clause in its EULA end user license agreement that requires players to immediately uninstall the product and destroy all copies of the product if Ubisoft terminates access to the game. Before we talk about sort of potential methods of destruction, just legally from a point of view. So I don't get this, but you buy something, you own it, and then it's required. Obviously, I know as a social engineer. I'm not a social engineer. everyone. I'm not going to do any social engineering. To some extent, my social engineering is all about how I can get more chocolates after dinner. But as a software engineer, there is obviously considerable issues with maintaining software over time, and the other side of this, the sort of games producers push are pushing back on those demands, saying there's significant financial and logistical hurdles, and that mandating indefinite server maintenance or offline conversions for online only titles would be prohibitively expensive, and the old trope would stifle innovation if you've got to keep maintaining this old stuff. So we've got this polemic happening at the moment, but just from a legal point of view, where are we at?
I think it's a really interesting hybridity between, going into a shop and buying something, buying a book. You own that book, and somebody might discover it in your house in 100 years' time, and it's still your thing.
In fact, you can leave it, can't you, in your will to somebody?
Your chattels, your bits and pieces, a flower vase,
Alice,
a physical object.
Is that clear to you? You buy something in a shop and it's yours.
Well, I think it's the creator of Minecraft has recently, he didn't come up with it, but he is parroting what has been going around, which is if buying isn't owning, pirating isn't stealing.
Ooh, controversial.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, so I do have. So I've got a couple of things to say to this, and then we'll come back to you. So I did some work for UNESCO a few years ago, maybe over a decade ago, and their cultural unit was interested in the preservation of digitally born data.
Mm.
So if you think about your childhood games, if you could find them now, could you play them? Would you be able to find something that was capable of playing them? And then, of course, would they be updated? Would they be still playable? So the software is such particularly internet-enabled games are such a complex thing to maintain. You have to look after the security, you have to look after the playability, and so there is an investment that the manufacturer gets. But what I think is happening at the moment is a bit of a mess between the pure, you go into a shop, you buy a game on a physical thing, then it's yours, you probably forget about it and throw it away and throw away the player, but that's just life, versus the subscription model, which is you're just really renting it. And then as long as the manufacturer wants to make it available, you can play it, but the deal is you're paying a bit per month and then you get the service. What is interesting, you were mentioning this, Alice, just before we started, was what about films that you buy on a streaming platform? You think, I love this film, I want to watch it again and again, and then the film is no longer available on the platform, and it's like, poof, it's gone. And I think our whole concept of what it means to own something versus renting it are really challenged in this, and the industry is sort of moving towards subscription only, but can't quite do it because people want to own things.
I have something to say about this, and I think we're in a rabbit hole of licensing, subscription, purchasing and stuff, and I think the manufacturers are dumb here. I think as a marketer, I think they're missing a huge trick. They're making a promise with their community. They're asking their community to build an emotional relationship with their games and their world. And these people feel they own this anyway. They're there with their friends. It is their community. It is like saying we're going to smash down a shop, a post office in your village, which is where you all meet, because we can't support the post office.
Or we're going to come into your house and take the physical DVDs off your shelf and take them away.
Yeah.
And, when it gets to, I think it's absurd when it all starts to talk about one subscription model and financial and logistical hurdles. So I really have, I really don't like the sort of online friction that's happening, the polemic. It's become, again, another really extreme debate. And I think and it's kind of a theme of other things that we're talking about.
I want, in a way that there are, I think people have been talking about the right to repair, haven't they? So couldn't there be a way that the manufacturers are going, well, we're done with this product, it's not really selling, we do recognise that there's a group of hardcore fans and gamers who want to be able to maintain this, we're going to either open source it or give you guys the right to repair it, or have some sort of way.
They're scared because the community will take it away.
Yeah,
you think
they
about
might make a big success of it.
But anyway, this is going on. This will go on and on. I mean, I just think, when you start sort of going, where we can't. I mean, I find it hysterical, the idea of asking people to destroy something. It's a sort of like, kids, time to go to bed now. Uninstall the software and destroy it.
And that to me is just like the legal department just
got
a little bit
Nintendo,
overexcited.
My last thing I want to say about this is, compared to Ubisoft, Nintendo have always been about legacy media and keep, the N64 is really old, but it's still the vintageness, and they really prioritise backwards compatibility.
Lovely.
Like with the Switch 2 that's just come out, you can play all the old Switch games on it.
And people love the kind of 8-bit resolution. They love the oldness of it.
Stuff, and they celebrate vintage.
I think that's exactly the right way, and it's sort of back to the UNESCO point, is like, where everything that we're experiencing is online, you feel like, oh yes, I can get everything, and then it's suddenly gone and you can't get it anymore. That actually, although we think about, careful what you say or do online because it's like there forever, it really isn't. And then when it's gone, it's just gone in a way that we haven't really come to terms with.
Thank you very much. Next, we're going to be talking about dogs, and in particular a popular Eastbourne dog groomer who's become the target of a sophisticated phishing scam. But first of all, it is time for our Guilty Pleasure Online.
Connecting to AI.
Oh, there was some weird sentence that I heard over the top of that fantastic intro to the Guilty Pleasure Online. I think both Alice and Emily were competing for Guilty Pleasure Online
We thought
today.
we'd have a little competition this week because both of us wanted to share our Guilty Pleasure Online, and so we were like, well, let's both do them and you can decide whose is the best.
So, okay then. So, in a way, the order of hearing it may have an impact. But I'm going to go with Alice first.
Okay, my Guilty Pleasure Online this week is the game Trombone Champ, which is, it's on Switch, it's on Windows, and it's just kind of like Guitar Hero, but for the trombone. So, for example...
What's Guitar Hero?
I don't know if I will just play you some excerpts from Trombone Champ and you can judge for yourself. So that's Careless Whisper.
Careless Whisper by George
We've got,
Michael. This is great.
Can you play Trombone Champ if you don't actually own a trombone?
Can you see the little virtual...
Oh, and is it you controlling the trombone?
I think it's like you move the mouse up and it moves the pitch up and you click to play a note.
I think this is huge.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful. Yeah. So essentially they're taking a popular tune like Happy Birthday, which we all know in our head, and then as they're playing it, deliberately detuning it just when you need the tune to go.
Have you played it, Alice? Have you played it
yet?
What would be your choice to Trombone Champ over?
I mean, I've seen things like people doing it for speeches, which I think there's a whole... Obviously, the trombone, it physically is a hilarious instrument in the real world. Yeah. So this is just brilliant, as you can see, the clip. It's everything, and it looks a bit like a meme.
Maybe we could Trombone Champ our podcast.
Thank you very much, Emily.
It could be done.
And your Guilty Pleasure Online?
Well, I feel a bit ashamed of my Guilty Pleasure Online now, but after the Trombone Champ. But mine is napping celebrities at Wimbledon.
Oh, fantastic.
So I keep seeing it on Instagram, just like scrolling through my feed on Instagram. I keep getting napping celebrities. First of all, how do they get the tickets? I know they're just rich and famous, so... because one of my cousins managed to get through the lottery in Wimbledon and was on the front row of Court 1, and we saw her and her husband on telly.
I heard she was complaining about it because it was too hot.
It was boiling.
I'm not surprised.
It was
They just
boiling,
sit there
and you're sitting.
for hours and hours.
Brilliant
So,
day.
is this just
So,
a camera
but-
shot where they
yeah.
managed to get somebody with their eyes closed, or is this a full honking snorer?
Well, this is just there was one of Hugh Grant who was really going for it, really having a lovely nap in the sunshine, bless him. But there's also a whole kind of like scanning the crowd for all the famous people, which I personally love. But isn't it all about the tennis?
I don't know.
No.
Probably not anymore.
No, it's about Hugh
If you can
Grant
see
napping.
Hugh Grant having a
Yeah.
sleep,
Yeah.
then
Then
that's-
who
yeah.
cares?
Well, who's
Yeah.
the winner? Who's got the best guilty pleasure online?
I think, well, just to serve the memeness, it's got to be the trombones.
Yes.
Thank you very
Trombones.
much. You know, and-
Even I would award it to the
and,
trombone
you know,
champ. Really.
I mean, a guilty pleasure. I probably will go. Yeah, well done,
I bet.
Alice. You've
No,
won.
but
You've
you
won.
said it though. But I bet you'll be looking at your napping celebrities on Wimbledon on the quiet.
I just will
afterwards.
not be going and
Yeah.
trying to find old people having a
Really just
sleep.
as funny.
In fact, I like to believe that there's. Yeah. Anyway,
Something
love.
better in life.
Mud Dog Lady, a popular Eastbourne dog groomer, has become the target of a
Right, you keep saying Eastbourne. What does that mean?
Eastbourne.
Oh, Eastbourne. I was
This
like,
is great. This
Eastbourne?
is Eastbourne is like sort of
Eastbourne.
e-commerce, you know. Just
she's an AI dog groomer.
Terribly sorry about the pronunciation there, but that's what happened when you do a
Eastbourne.
podcast with a speech and language therapist. Anyway, Caroline Donahue, a popular Eastbourne dog groomer, became the target of a sophisticated phishing scam that's threatened her business, which relies heavily on substantial online presence. The attackers leveraged the old book, seemingly legitimate communication, so false identity, and then engaged with her on platforms like TikTok to create a false sense of urgency. And the core of the attack involves granting control to her Meta Business Suite and similar account management tools. So once you make somebody running a social media account a co-admin, they basically have administrative control over your business. And if your business is actually around social media and getting income from social media, which the internet seriously is not yet, that is quite a dangerous thing. So Emily, this is
Yeah,
classic
this is
stuff.
well. Obviously, I was drawn to this story because she's a dog groomer, and as I was looking at it, I did notice that there was a video on how to trim your dog's toenails. I actually took my dogs to the vet because nobody could actually get near their toenails. And Caroline Donahue, total respect to you, clipping their toenails like a dream. But this is a series.
What dogs? Sorry.
Well, there was a whole cockapoo video. Again, I was
Is that
loving
her
it.
dog or other
I
dogs?
think
Does
these
she
are
take-
clients.
And
These
they're
are
all.
clients.
It's.
And they're as good as gold. And so she is really good. She's
Oh,
got...
they were as good as gold.
Yeah,
Does it
she
need
has
to be
got
breed-specific nail clipping advice?
No,
Well, I was
no,
wondering
it
because
was multi.
big woofy dogs, you try and clip their nails.
Well,
even our
yeah.
dogs are
But
crazy.
even she's a dog whisperer. Even she was like
Ah.
wrestle on the, but very, very good at it. Like clip, clip, clip. You know, so
Ah.
anyway, I want to get to the tech story
Yeah,
here. So
this is
Caroline
actually
Donahue.
quite a sad
It
story.
is a sad story.
Yeah.
It's a really serious story and also scary. So she's got something like 750,000 followers on social media, and she was given a podcast invitation from a well-known podcast. She was really excited, and they were offering to pay her, so that's part of the lure. But she had a prep interview and looked at materials that looked really genuine, so they really went for it, and they knew about her. They knew that she was a single mother. They knew she was widowed.
Your nightmare.
They had bothered to really investigate her,
really
and of course,
creepy level of kind of stalking.
creepy level of stalking.
knowledge, Yeah.
Why are they interested in Love Mud Dog Lady? Because she's got a large following. She's making money out of viral videos, and therefore she is an income stream. And so just as part of this, very casually in the prep call, they said, look, can you just pop this email address in your events page so that when the video goes live of the podcast, we can really help you with it. And as you said, Lucian, she's now lost control of her her account on Facebook, and she was earning £400 to £1,600 per month from video revenue, which is now being diverted to the bad actors. She's seeing these 2 email addresses on her account. She can't remove them. She can't get access to them. So, one recommendation is, install 2-factor authentication, but I think this level of kind of real preying on
this
a person
bypasses all of that.
It's going to bypass all of it.
When you play on basically trust, and you develop a business relationship effectively with somebody, you are actually, the 2-factor is irrelevant, because you're actually creating an additional administrator account for them. And what I'm really interested in is this element of espionage. Alice, we had as an organisation social engineering training this week. That's why it's very stuck in my mind, because you yourself have been a victim of scam where actually
identity theft.
And that's what I was going to lead into, is that actually what was seemed a very benign thing of like, they can't possibly be trying to steal 69p from me for a failed delivery, and you've got to pay another 69p to get your parcel. And so it's these approaches, and we were talking about this in our training earlier this week. It's these rather benign approaches about something quite trivial, whereas they're just doing espionage. They're just doing their recce about you.
Yeah, and a stalkery level of knowledge. And I find, my identity theft scam was one of these kind of pay for a delivery fee scams. But I find the most upsetting ones are, I've experienced it, and my partner as well, as sort of musicians and creators, we will get false customers. So like on my TikTok account that I do, which is, it's not huge, but when I was getting quite big numbers, I would immediately get comments from brands being like, we'd love to partner with you, and you could do stuff that sounds...
Everyone's dream.
Yeah, or like
it?
my partner with his sort of music services will get customers being like, I'd love to get one of your, you write a piece of music for me. You just need to enter I'm having trouble accessing the payment
this is one
system.
of the techniques, isn't it? They're playing on your hopes and dreams. They're talking essentially to vulnerable people. We see with sexploitation, sextortion scams and things like that, or romance scams. They're playing on people's hope and dreams.
And also you're quite vulnerable, because you feel like an idiot. You're like, oh, of course it's not someone
but you
thinking I'm an amazing creator, and so it stops you from sharing. And there's research that says that lots of scam victims, I think 49% of scam victims feel stupid and are made to feel stupid as well when they do share their experience, and it can be as traumatic as like domestic abuse.
Now,
I have one thing also to add about the Love Mud Dog lady, and also kudos to her for going public about this, because there is that kind of sense of victim blaming. They also got her to send them an invoice with all of her bank details and so on. They're not going to be able to, I don't think, extract money from her bank, but that is full of the sort of information that people use for verification of identity. So the kind of identity theft side, which you experienced and went on for 2 years, and ended up really impacting your credit record over a little trivial event that you'd probably forgotten about, and it didn't discover for years later. So this is a really predatory, really unpleasant, and of course has led to her losing a big source of income for her as a single mum.
And this is an attack on one person who's managed to stand up and say, this is what's happened, and hopefully she'll be sorted out. Hopefully the social media platforms with those commercial accounts will do the right thing. But at the heart of this is social engineering, and this is pervasive. This is becoming really dangerous. We've seen this with one person, their livelihood and their income being attacked, but it's also at the root of one of the biggest losses, as far as I can see, in history in the UK, when we talk about the Marks and Spencers attack, and when we talk about people feeling stupid for being the victims of that. When you look at the characters, the type of people that have just been arrested, not making any inferences about them. But it really, you do have to look at the supply chain that helps those people commit these sorts of attacks. And that's what I want to talk about next. But first, it's time for our Tech Room 101. Room 101. Alice, I think you have a Tech Room 101 for us today. I'm really excited about that because I'm still banned from Tech Room 101, and so I'm really interested in on riffing on other people's Tech Room 101 because I still like to have a good complaint.
Okay, so this is a very silly thing which has a more serious, interesting point to discuss, which is that a research paper from 2021 found that there are widespread systemic failings in all genetic research because Microsoft Excel kept changing gene names to dates. That's my Tech Room. I mean, I hate, Microsoft Excel and generally all spreadsheets when they change strings of numbers to dates.
It
there
is
nothing you can do to turn it off.
And also the date format can be very, very disturbing as well.
Yeah.
So they change
gene names. So since we've been using computers to do genetics research, which is 2000, maybe a bit later, since that year people have been using Microsoft Excel to input all the data, and I think it's like 30.9% of articles studied had failings due to Excel changing gene names to dates.
Oh my goodness.
That's going to really... God, when I next do my genetic study...
But then when you access healthcare, the information that your doctors are using is based on all this research.
Wow.
Where 30% of it
is
just speechless.
Rubbish.
Autocorrect.
So we came across this. We did a long-running study, the IDN World Report,
internationalised
domain names, tracking the uptake of internationalised domain names. And when we started it, I was that person on my spreadsheet, and I kept on, first of all, being really freaked out by my own errors in calculations or accidentally putting data into a formula field and screwing up all of the results. So I asked Mark and the technical team to build a database so that this wouldn't happen. And then after that, I felt so relieved because I knew that the calculations would at least be done by people who had done maths at school rather than Latin and Greek.
A public-funded health service that doesn't have the resources.
It's a bit more serious than my wind-up, which was just auto-suggest carrying on without me seeing it. And then I send somebody something and say, thank you for the flowers, stupid.
It's
and
like
I'm
that,
I didn't write that. I'm so sorry.
On the scale of all genetics research that we've ever done as humanity.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Basically, it's crap software.
It's once
Four
again.
people have been arrested in a major cyber attack investigation targeting Marks and Spencer's, Co-op, and Harrods. Recent police activity has seen 4 individuals arrested in connection with the attacks. The arrests made by National Crime Agency in London and West Midlands involve a 20-year-old woman, a 17-year-old male, and 2 19-year-old males. So these arrests are a breakthrough in the investigation. They emphasise that it's just the investigation is ongoing, so there's not really much we can say, except that if this is true, if this is actually happening, this is once again an indicator of what we call scam and fraud kits. This is just makes it very easy for anybody to be able to use these to be able to compromise.
Scams as a service.
Scam as a service.
Ransomware as a service.
You know, when you think, I mean, I'm just comparing this. I was interested in this compared to other historic robberies. The Brinks Mat, which nearly brought down a whole. It in fact brought down a bank. In today's currency, was £111 million worth of loss or cost in 2000 mapping that. It was in 1983, the Brinks Mat robbery, the Great Train robbery in the year that I was born, equivalent to 73.7 million in today's currency. this robbery has so far cost Marks and Spencer's an estimated £300 million. So it's one of the greatest sort of crimes, of cash loss crimes in all time. And it's a bunch of kids.
Of teenagers.
Allegedly. You know, so
allegedly.
These individuals have been arrested on suspicion of this crime. If found guilty, then what does this say
We were
about
playing
our
Guess the
society?
Age in the office earlier, and they were like, guess how old the Marks and Spencer's potential hackers were.
But these are clearly not people that from the age of 16 started plotting what the M&S chairman called a sophisticated impersonation. And this is what gets me as an engineer, is I'm hearing British Airways after the Mage Cart attack on their customers and payment devices. Marks and Spencer's, they're not in the scam and fraud conferences. They're not in the security conferences. They don't know how it all
they're
works.
A supermarket.
But they're making, but it's because they're a shop. But they're a shop that's online, and they're making these statements about how sophisticated it was. It had excluded because they have to say that, but. These are not sophisticated. And we were hearing a few months back when this broke that the NCA, we had this sort of undercurrent, we know who it is.
There was, I really got that feeling, and Joe Tidy's, Joe Tidy, the BBC cyber correspondent, has his reporting of it suggested that, you know, they knew who the perpetrators were. They knew, or the alleged they thought they did. That the perpetrators were contacting journalists and talking to them. And it's interesting because Joe Tidy, who's going to be coming on the podcast in a few weeks, has written a book, Alt Control Chaos, about this phenomenon of teenage gangs of, you know, his report is all boys. It's all boys doing this. So I'm really intrigued that there is one woman who's been arrested on suspicion here. But what is going on with these teenage boys who are being drawn into cyber criminal world? And he does a case study of a Finnish sort of tech mastermind who was arrested a few years ago. But if this does result in convictions, which would, by the way, be incredibly rare in the world of cybercrime, where, you know, if they're convicted, they're UK perpetrators with UK victims. But I noticed that the National Crime Agency spokesman also indicated that they are getting assistance from overseas as well, because all cybercrime has some kind of overseas element of it. You know, this is a really unusual case, but it also highlights, I'm looking forward to talking to Joe Tidy more about this, about the phenomenon of teenage boys getting drawn into the hacking world.
I have a thing to say about this, which I've done some undercover research.
Oh,
where I've made social media accounts that are just like, you know, burner accounts, and I've looked up, you know, how to do a scam, and just straight away thousands and thousands of results of people like selling their scam package, their scripts, which they have crafted carefully. And so it means that just like me, with zero knowledge of how to scam anyone, I can just download a script and I can just start scamming. No one's going to catch me.
This takes us to the global signal exchange, which we've been setting up with Google, working with law enforcement, working with big tech, and hundreds of companies are signing up, because basically what we call the fraud attack chain, whereas a fraudster, you think of it as quite sophisticated. You register a British company, you register a domain name, websites, you build all of this stuff, you set it all up, you then create a false identity with false email addresses, false TikTok accounts, you then engage with the victim using SMS text messaging, you use all of these facilities and resources to finally commit a crime at the bank side and take money from someone. And it's only at what we call step 4 that we actually all find out about that. But the internet has been a marvelous supply chain for all of this, and finally you can rinse and repeat and do all of this in seconds, because it's what we call manufactured scams and fraud. So this is all pointing to it. You know, we see it behind a dog business. We're now seeing it behind Marks and Spencer's, one of the biggest businesses in the world.
Yes, and the, you know, the reporting on the M&S exploit, ransomware exploit, describes this as a sort of franchise model. You know, so the exploits are thought to come from Malaysia, Dragon Force, and then this is a sort of a ransomware as a service, exactly as you described.
Yeah,
Alice.
like selling, if it was drugs, which we compare it to because scam and fraud crime is now more profitable for criminals than
bigger.
drug dealing. It's like selling, you know, equipment to manufacture your own drugs really cheaply.
So at the moment, it's far too easy, but
Yeah.
people are starting to get together and fight back. Finally, we've got time for one last topic. We don't normally do 4 topics because we're really out of time, but this was suggested to us by our mate Graham in Barnsley, and I'm actually intrigued by this because this builds on something that we were talking about with AI algorithms a few weeks ago. Grok, the AI chatbot developed by XAI, has recently been at the centre of a significant controversy regarding its generation of extremist content. This has sparked widespread discussion about AI safety, content moderation, and the potential for large language models to amplify harmful narratives. Now, the content of this video does get scanned itself by AI. I would do that if I were YouTube. I'm not actually going to repeat some of the discussions that this Grok were actually entering in with people querying them, but it was extreme political content. In a way, there's this thing about, you know, you've got these AI models. Why shouldn't they be extreme, Emily?
Well, I think that's it's certainly a point of view, but I think this and the Anthropic incident, which was very like HAL from 2001.
Is that where it was blackmailing?
Well, it was blackmailing the engineers who were threatening to turn it off.
Anthropic,
what happens when
Claude,
AI models go rogue, according to whatever your view of rogue is, and it really highlights we're sort of experimenting with these incredibly powerful things. I mean, I think Igor made a video of me using,
like
I think, was it a
fake
photograph and stuff like that? I don't know if we can line that up while I'm just talking about this, but you know, we've got these really powerful.
So how
Here
can
it
you
is.
know if this video is real or not?
Wow.
And that's from a photograph
Yeah.
of me.
Yeah, and if I didn't know you, that might well be a real person
Well, I'm
with
like, that-
what are they called? The gecko or something? on
Yeah,
the
yeah,
shoulder.
some sort of
Yeah.
magic. It's only the magic elements of that video that give you the hint that it's not real. So powerful tools for free with no guardrails around them.
Well, I said the incidents have put pressure on XAI to address Grok's alignment and safety mechanisms. They do agree with you, actually, as a company. They have acknowledged inappropriate posts being generated by Grok, and they are actively working to remove them.
Remove the content, which you know, given Twitter X's recent history, is quite a statement. But it just highlights, you know, we're learning by doing. You know, what happened to our societies, what happened to speech. Well, we'll find out by living through it. I think.
There's a theme that we can keep coming back to, Alice. It's interesting. I'm interested in your final thoughts on this. We're talking about this theme of social engineering, just using people to work on people and to get into their heads with their wants and needs, and then sort of amplifying the damage through tech. And once again, AI and the polemic and the debate, we're getting into extremes all the time. We're being pushed to
There's been
extremes.
some research that shows that really effective people committing scams and fraud use the same language techniques as coercive controlling abusers. Because they're incredibly manipulative, and it's an incredibly effective and powerful way of getting someone to do something. You know, the techniques we think about, putting someone under time pressure or stress, emotional distress, making them make a decision really quickly, they're all techniques of abuse. And when these techniques that have been carefully developed and tried and tested are then manufactured and put into the hands of just any old teenager who...
Thank you very much. Thank you very much,
can do
Alice.
a
And
scam.
watch this space on that, sort of categories of abuse, because with any luck, Alice will be heading up some research in this area. So we've had a bumper-packed 4-topic show
Won't
today.
be doing that again in a hurry.
But before we sign off today, do we have a comment of the week?
We had a comment of the week about our Roblox video from last week, where somebody said, "I know that game. Nobody there is serious."
Oh.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Thank-
that is
thank- I think
and that kind of goes to your comment, and
Yeah.
it reminded me of a speaker from Meta on our panel at the Internet Governance Forum in Oslo a couple of weeks ago, when they're talking about, well, what are the challenges of content moderation around certain behaviours, and she was saying, well, the techniques used by romance scammers, the speech and the interactions are very like people looking for real love on the platforms, and so if you're too aggressive in your content moderation, you're going to have some really difficult problems to deal with.
Thanks for that comment. Fascinating stuff this week. Thank you, everybody. We've been discussing Stop Killing Games, a new movement called the SKG, which champions consumer rights and game preservation. A love mud dog lady. We just have to have a dog story somehow in there. So we found one, a popular Eastbourne dog groomer who became the target of a sophisticated phishing scam. 4 have just been arrested in a major cyber attack investigation targeting Marks and Spencer's. And finally, a bit on Grok, the AI chatbot developed by XAI, which is together with other AI like Anthropic's Claude AI, are causing concern about extremism. Thank you very much.